On this week's episode of Work Trends, we're talking modern HR with Dawn Burke. Welcome to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Meghan M. Biro. Every week, I interview interesting people and brands who are reimagining work. For more information, be sure to check us out at talentculture.com and join us live on Twitter every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern using the hashtag WorkTrends. Today's guest is Dawn Burke. She is an HR practitioner with more than 20 years of experience. You may have seen her speaking at an HR conference or writing for sites like Fistful of Talent. These days, Dawn is running a consulting firm helping HR teams think differently about where work is going. Welcome to Work Trends, Dawn.
Hi, how are you? I am completely excited about this chat, so thanks for having me.
So you say that you're a proponent of the new HR. What does this mean to you?
Well, Meghan, you said that I've been practicing. I was in corporate HR for about 20 years. I mean, hard to believe, right? And I think when we talk about new HR, we really should start by defining what old HR is, in my opinion. And, to me, the old HR function was one that was really driven by compliance for good reasons. We evolved. HR evolved from the payroll function, and HR evolved from being prevalent in the time of a lot of different employment laws coming up. So the old HR functions compliance driven, where they were more practitioners, in my opinion, than strategic leaders. So they were policing policies to ensure that nobody got sued. So let's talk about old HR, because I don't think that it at all is going to push the old HR. It's not going to push, I think, businesses forward in the modern workplace. So I believe right now, new HR is going to be, people leaders, whose, value is going to lie in understanding and uncovering what corporate culture is. And I know you've talked about culture on your podcast before. And culture simply really is what employees truly value. Not the values on the wall, but what they really value. And then I think their role is going to be as corporate connectors, connecting people to their purpose, connecting employees to their passion, and making sure that connects with the company's mission, the company's goals and results. And then I do think, and this is one that some HR pros might go, wait, what? I think modern HR pros need to become subject matter experts in a whole lot of things and teach the managers and leaders how to run HR within their own functions themselves more. So
I'm curious about something. You have me thinking in an old direction for you. When you first signed up 20 years ago to be an HR practitioner, what did you think it was going to be? I'm just really curious.
Well, it's interesting. My career path's really bizarre one. Yeah, I got my first degree as a theater major. I mean, get out.
We have something in common. See?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So big theater fan, big music fan, all fine arts I love. And
me too.
Once you get out in the real world though, I really needed to actually, pay my rent. I don't know, have some benefits. So quickly I realized now that theater is not going to be my profession. So long story short, what do? You go into retail management. There you go. So I was a retail manager for many years. And really, if you want to get a great 101 on how all things kind of development, organizational operations, go be a retail manager for a while. So I decided, Meghan, I was like, I really do need to have a life. So I thought, what are the skills I have learned in my retail career that would transfer into a corporate HR environment? And I'm going to answer your question in a minute. I promise you we're getting there.
Well, I will say it's been 20 years. We're going to cut you some slack, right?
I can't believe it's been 20 years. Wow. So what I did is and this is something I teach people now, I looked at all of the things that I liked about my retail job, my management leadership job, and I thought what would transfer into a corporate environment. And it was the support, the leadership, the hiring, the helping with career paths, all of those things. And so I started in HR because I knew I didn't know enough about some of the foundational HR skills. So I knew I had to take a step back if I was going to have a long-term career. And I deliberately took a step back. And my first corporate job in HR was as the HR administrative assistant. And so at that time, when I thought about HR, I thought about two things. I thought about recruiting and I thought about laws. to be honest with you. And so we're talking about 2000. So, that's really where I think a lot of people think about HR. Now, I did not think of HR as a payroll function, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting to. Like, you probably didn't envision that. And myself, as a former recruiter, I didn't envision myself as an HR practitioner at the time.
Right.
Now we're redefining each of these roles, and it's becoming more holistic, right?
Oh, it's absolutely more holistic. And when I talk with people, and I still network, and I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. And so on top of, doing the writing and speaking, I still talk with practitioners a lot. And it still is, so many people who are practitioners love the idea of being holistic. But either one of two things three things are happening. Either they're actually making the switch to a holistic HR function. Number two, they're no, they should, but they can't prioritize the time. And then the third group, there's still a third group that really likes the compliance part, that really likes being the practitioner. And I think that third group's going to struggle in the next 5 to 10 years if they don't become more holistic.
Tell me, what has been the most surprising thing about the way organizations run today for you?
Well, I think what's surprising when you talk about today, and some of these are good, and maybe my thoughts are perceived not so good, but I think right now the speed of work is insane. It is run in a way, and I don't know if it's deliberate. I think most of it is just a result of technology and the way we work. But the speed at which all corporations are working across the board, no matter what industry, is mind-numbing. And taking a step back, I think it's causing a burnout epidemic. That being said, it is the reality in which we work. So I think the HR role right now, when you're going to talk about culture and engagement, is finding a way to champion some better work practices for health purposes. I think the other thing that's been really surprising to me is how quickly corporate strategies have to change. There really is no such thing as a future strategy. As being my last role, I was an executive, and so I was also making strategic decisions for the organization and got some nice exposure to that. Strategy to me is not about what you're going to do in the future. Strategy to me is, what are you doing right now? And my gosh, you might have that big, we're going to have this powwow at the beginning of the year, and we're going to figure out what we're going to achieve this year. And then, I'm not talking about half a year later. I'm talking about a month later too. 3 months later, it's completely changed. That is something that it can be exciting if you have the right corporate culture. And if you identify that as, hey, this is our reality, let's call a thing. This is our reality. But a lot of even executives aren't realizing that that's their reality. And that causes, that doesn't cause joy in the workplace. Do you agree?
I completely agree with you. And, I think reality and what people are aspirational about right now, there's a pretty big divide. Has this been unexpected for you?
As far as that divide is concerned?
The divide, and also that 3-month thing that we were just saying, or the 1 month, right? As opposed to, we're going to sit down, we're going to be strategic, and 6 to 12 months out, we know where we're going. Has that disruption that's occurred for you in your career, was that unexpected for you?
Oh, yeah. I think it's one of those where we are all, I think we were all shaped by school. Hey, we got a calendar year, and then we graduate, and then we do new stuff the next year. Definitely. 20 years ago, the strategy did last for a year. And then all of a sudden, I think the thing that was surprising to me, and maybe I was a bit naive to, is the fact that, I'm going to share a big secret with you. This is going to rock your world.
We love secrets.
It's going to rock
Pray
your
tell.
world. Guess what? Executives don't even realize that their strategy is changing so much. So many people think that executives are just these, godlike creatures that, they're just, they've got it all together. And they would say, they'd be the first ones to say, no, we're not. We're very human, but where executives are failing is not realizing the reality of the fact that they're going to have a more agile strategy plan. So again, when you talk about my expectations, it really was kind of a shock to me, and in some ways a disappointment that there seemed to be the blind leading the blind in some regards, which I think can be helped by just saying, hey, this strategy is going to change, and we have to be prepared for it. So
let's talk about your experience building a culture at Daxo. I know the culture there was very unique. Tell me about that.
Well, at Daxco, I started at Daxco in 2010. I left last year. And again, I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and it was a tech company. So there's a little bit of context for you. So the culture, when you think about the culture, it was really ahead of the curve, not only for this region, but particularly for this region. The leaders were very, very focused on culture at the inception, really, of the company. And that was before my time. So, you're talking about in Birmingham, pretty revolutionary. And I'd say this, though, when you talk about the uniqueness of it, if a lot of people now, when they think about, hey, what are the things that really, propelled this idea of culture, at the time when you're talking, I don't know, 12, 13, 15 years ago, they weren't really reinventing the wheel. Daxco followed a lot of the principles that the Silicon Valley, the West Coast companies were doing. But
in what way? Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but here's the good news. They kept that foundation throughout my time there. So what is that foundation? Number one, part of the mission, we are here to provide employees rewarding careers. Boom. And you think about that, and that sounds aspirational, because a lot of people say that kind of crap and they don't mean it. I'll say Daxco, they meant it. That was foundational. Really think about that. Me and you, we read about this stuff. It seems status quo. For a lot of folks,
right,
making the employee have a rewarding career is not something that is focused on. So I have to give credit for Daxco and their leaders. It was. So what does that mean? Well, one of the things is it allowed to have a people team that was focused on that, not compliant. Focus on people. There was definitely resources built into the culture. When I mean resources, I mean dollars, where employees really could self-drive their development. They always had money to go and learn new things, whether it was internally or externally. I think something that's pretty funny is I remember when I first even started at Daxco, and I'd been in HR for, 10 years or so before that. I was actually told after about 6 months, the CEO said, you're a little more conservative than I thought. And I was like, what? It's laughable if you know me in a lot of ways. So
I'm
that's
laughing.
Yeah, I know. Even I was like, what? I'm like, dude, you just haven't seen HR if I'm conservative. But it really was a championing before it was trendy. Daxco championed this way of life at work that could be collaborative, that could be people first. And I'll tell you why it could happen, though. And this is important for people who are looking at culture, because that was the type of environment that the main clients liked as well. So that culture fit a strategy that helped business results as well. So, it was about flexibility with workstations, being able to create ways to collaborate, full transparency on all things, and a lot of access to leaders and resources. So that now, Meghan, some people might go, well, man, that's not really new anymore. Mm-hmm. Well, first, I'd say a lot of companies still aren't doing it, although they want to. But think about 15 years ago. Think about 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, I know. Times have changed. When we talk about transformation, in reality, research shows 89% of leaders believe building an organization of the future is important, yet only 11% know how. So what do you think people are getting wrong? Because clearly those numbers are striking.
Oh my God, the numbers are jaw-dropping. When I read numbers like that, there's a part of me that goes, really? And then there's a part of me that goes, oh yeah, absolutely. And it's not for bad reasons. So I think there's a couple of reasons. I don't think it's because leaders don't want to build an organization of the future. You see that stat, 89% say they want to. They just don't know how to. They don't know how to. And the ones that may know how to, Meghan, they just aren't prioritizing it. I remember I speak on this on one of my sessions that I do when I speak at conferences, where there was, I believe it was a SHRM, state of the work union type of a survey. And they said that a high number of leaders executives knew they had to create an organization of the future. And all of those things included HR types of things, like rebuilding the organization, leadership development, new recruiting trends, these sorts of things. So all top priorities were HR and people related. However, in that same survey, they indicated of the departments that you run, this would be CEO, let's say, how do you prioritize them? And of course, HR was still toward the bottom of the list. What was prioritized was still finance, marketing, research and development, customer support, these sorts of things. And I think we say that's very understandable, but you cannot rebuild your culture if you are still deprioritizing the HR function due to other things. Now I also,
True. I love that. I mean, that statement alone just basically tells the story. And frankly, I'm a little tired of people saying like they're not sure what to do next. There's frankly a lot of information out there. You can go to talentculture.com and,
sure. Yeah,
and
you're
find
right.
out 8 years worth of content there that talks about being a leader in culture and recruiting, Fistful of Talent as well, right? So, I mean, the information is out there. It's really, you've touched upon it. It's about making it a priority.
Yeah, and it's frustrating to HR pros who want to do it, but they're not given the opportunity or the advocacy to do it for those reasons. And again, actions speak louder than words with leadership, period, point blank. Whether you're a line manager, whether you're a director, whether you're a VP, whether whatnot. So I think actions speak louder than words. So 11%, either they don't know how, they're not the 89% who aren't doing it right. I think the other conflict of interest is a lot of them are going to be beholden to shareholders or private equity investors. The M&A culture is alive and well right now in America.
It is.
Since the recession in 2008, since every year it got better and better, it's a 15 to 20% year over year increase across America in the number of mergers and acquisitions that are happening. And I have been in an organization that was high growth and went through a lot of equity flips and whatnot. And you know what? The equity groups are run by financiers. They have financial objectives, understandably. Yep. And that's going to not sometimes go in line with prioritizing things that they might perceive as soft. And then I think the third big thing, can you tell this is something where I'm just like, oh, the third big thing, and I've been guilty of it too, is executives are the last ones to prioritize reskilling themselves.
There you go.
Only ones that go, I don't need to go to that training because they don't have time. I don't have time. And that was something that was like, hey, even in some of the companies I worked for, we believe in it. We give money to our employees. We give all these resources. My people team spent half the time training. That's great, but they weren't doing it themselves. So guess what? They didn't model it. So their next in command were like, I don't have to do it. They don't care about it. So some of it's the same old crap that people have been dealing with. But I think I will say it's getting better. It's getting better.
I think it's getting better too. So at least we can say that today. I mean, we hear so much about engagement. I do fear it's becoming a buzzword, right? Yeah. But, I've been tuning into some of your work lately, and you've been shifting the conversation to connection.
Yes.
What is the difference? And I think this is really important for all you out there in the Work Trends audience to tune into. What is the difference between engagement and connection?
All right. So engagement and connection, simply, easy. Engagement is a result of connection. Engagement is the outcome. So we all know, so let's talk about engagement first. Engagement, we've read Gallup report. I mean, these reports about engagement being an absolutely definitive driver of results. We know that. We know that it works. So we have to figure out, how do we create employee experiences that include being more engaged? And connection is one of those ways. Again,
it's actually it's the action.
Yeah.
It's the action word, right? It's that feeling word. How do you think HR teams can simplify their strategies right now? Because I think we're overthinking some of this. Is there a way that we can say, this is Dawn's sage today? These are the 3 things you can do right now.
God love the world.
As a takeaway. Good luck.
Okay, well, this might be a little more philosophical than tactical, but here's where we go. Number 1, I absolutely agree. We're overthinking. We're overthinking in so many ways. I think one of the things that even really big corporations are starting to do is they're starting to, first thing I say is think small. And for big organizations, I'm suggesting they look at smaller organizations who are, maybe have 90, 100 employees to get some ideas on how to think smaller. But anyway, here are my 3 rules that any HR team I have. I say, this is what your value prop's going to be, and this is what's going to guide every decision you do. 3 rules. Number 1, your job is to present people options. You present them options. Hey, you know what? you came to me with this employee relations issue, for instance, something we deal with. You know what? Here's what I think. I think that your idea is great. And let me tell you why your idea is great. Now I'm going to give you, just for my expertise, this other option. All right, let me give you this other option. And then you know what? Here's actually a third option. And then all of these, you've given them options, and then you go with which one they want. All right. So number one, present options. Number two, our job is to mitigate risk. It's not to stop risk. It's impossible. So a lot of us go into, whether it's recruiting, this isn't just like employee relations. I mean, this is risk across the board. We think we're supposed to go in there and stop a train wreck from happening by going to a worst case scenario situation. You can't do X because it's going to be too risky. Well, again, we're to mitigate risk and assess risk. So what that simply means is, let's take that employee relations example. You might say, hey, I like your idea of how to handle this employee. The risk that will get us into any trouble, or the risk that will halt some sort of affect operations internally, it's really low. Go for it. I don't care. As opposed to, we want to make sure everything's 100% perfect so we don't get in trouble. Well, when's the last time you really got in trouble doing that? Oh, never.
That's really refreshing, actually. And I mean, I love the fact that you're like flavors. I think HR has gotten a bad rap about being the one at the table that's saying, I don't want that risk. Let's not risk. And what you're saying is, let's put that in the hands of the employees. Let's make everybody stakeholders, executives, everybody.
Yeah.
Love that.
And then the third thing would be find ways to say yes. I mean, that's it. So present options, mitigate risk, find ways to say yes. Doesn't mean you always say yes. Doesn't mean you always say, hey, that's a great idea. But I think that really reshaped the way that I thought about things strategically and tactically. And it definitely is something that I think was a successful mantra for my team. So if you want to simplify, it'll take a learning curve mentally to get there, but I think that will help you start at a better place, because then people are going to be more likely to want to work with you. So then you're not having to spin your wheels in much less simple ways to get things done.
Okay, let's talk about the M word, millennials. What do we all get wrong about millennials at work?
That they're young. I mean,
well, there you go.
No, number one, that they're young.
Yeah.
When I talk to groups and I'm like, hey, what do you think about millennials? They still get that stupid and they're entitled, blah, blah, blah. You know what? We'll get to that in a minute. But the first thing is that they're young. People still imagine the millennial as the 24-year-old or 23-year-old who just got out of college coming into the workplace. And some of that's still true. The oldest millennial is 38. Okay, let's take a pause and let that sink in.
See, I love that you just brought that up, because I'm like, a lot of my friends are sort of at that place in their life and career. And I'm like, 38's, I mean, I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but that ain't that young.
38, let's put in perspective. I was 38 when I got my first executive job. That's money-making years. At that point, people have been in the workplace for a significant amount of time. I mean, come on, Zuckerberg's a millennial, and then again, here's something that I kind of thought about and was like, the new president of France, Macron, is 40. So he's just out of millennial range. He's a very young Xer. He's 40 and he's leading a country. So I think the biggest mistake that people make about millennials is they think they're young, and because a lot of them are. And the other one is, again, the entitled thing. They aren't. I would say that the millennials, and I think this is important we talk about here since we talk about millennials. Millennials have saved us, have saved the workplace. I'm going to tell you why. Millennials, of course, grew up in a time where they really knew nothing but the internet age. I'm an Xer. For half of my life, I did not. I remember using the card catalog.
Me too.
Card catalog to get a book. Yeah, remember that crap?
I do.
Now you just go to Amazon. It takes 30 seconds. So this is what the millennials have grown up with. And so they were the first ones, though. The reason people thought they were entitled is because they were the first ones to come in and use some common sense. Like, wait, out in the real world through the internet, I get all the information I need. I get it fast. It's completely transparent. I get to read about and think about things in a social justice way. And the most important thing, Megan, is they have the ability to vote. And that's by liking something on Facebook. So they came into the workplace and they were like, what the hell? No. I really don't understand why I can't work from home. I have a computer here. I never leave my desk. That makes no sense. So long story short, I know for the sake of time, I'll speed this up. But what they did is came in and they started to change. They would vote with their feet. They'd say, well, I'm leaving. I'll go start my own company. And then the Xers looked over and went, I want to work from home. Me too.
Everybody wants to, right?
Boomers want to too. So when we talk about the modern worker, it's not millennials. It's everybody. Who now want the things the millennials had ushered in. And that's why I think the millennials, I should bend down and really bow to that.
I say word up, right?
Yeah, I do too. Good for them. They have the courage to do it.
Dawn, if you could give every manager one piece of advice, what would it be?
Number one, discern whether you should be one.
Yep. Love it.
Number one, just should you be one? You don't have to be one anymore. That is not the only way to get more money, more power, more prestige, which a lot of people who are ambitious want. And I think it's great. I do. But for a long time, the only way to do that was through them getting promoted into manager. And we all know this is nothing new. Most of those folks have no clue how to be one. So number one, discern whether you should even be one. If you do, and you have the DNA, do everything you can to build trust. That's the next thing. You got to be trust-based, vulnerable, and know that building trusting relationships is going to be your key to success in every single way.
So we talk a lot here about the future of work. How do you predict work's going to change in the next 5 years?
Well, technology is just going to get better. Technology's here. It's disrupted the industry in a positive way. It's disrupted the industry, I think, in one hard way, though, is it's made the amount of work we have to process exponentially higher, so we can get burned out if we don't use it. But technology is going to change. A lot of people are scared about the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is here. It's going to get better. I do not think that is going to change. That's not going to get HR people fired. It's just going to mean that, guess what? Your practitioner tactical stuff is gone. So start changing your value prop. So technology, I think that you are going to see more diversity in the workplace. And I'm going to tell you why. This is the first time in history right now, think about it, Megan, where outside social issues are impacting the way corporations are operating inside. Case in point, the Starbucks debacle a few weeks ago. I mean, come on. Today, Howard Schultz said every single bathroom will be open to the public, whether you're a customer or not. Okay, that outside social issue changed very directly the way that internal organization operated. Me Too, Black Lives Matter. And this will, I think, make workplaces more inclusive, more socially conscious, and more colorful. And I mean that in a very positive way, more diverse. So technology, more diversity, but social issues outside will absolutely impact how we work inside.
Dawn Burke, it is so nice having you here with us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Gosh,
and I will see you soon.
Yes, I will. I'll see you very soon. So loved it. Would love to come back on the podcast. And thanks again.
Thanks for listening to Work Trends from Talent Culture. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And I'd be really grateful if you took a moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes. It helps other people find our show. If you know someone who would enjoy listening, please share it with them. You can learn more about the future of work at talentculture.com.